All right, listeners, ready to unpack the B1, B2 visa's 6-month rule.
We're diving deep today.
It's one of those things that seems simple on the surface, but then you start planning your trips and...
Yeah, you hit a snag.
Exactly.
It's a common misconception that 10-year validity equals a free-for-all for a decade.
Right, so someone's got their visa, they're ready to move to the US for the next 10 years.
Not so fast.
Not quite.
Not so fast.
So let's break it down. What are we talking about when we say the 6-month rule?
Basically, each entry on your B1, B2 visa typically grants you a stay of up to 6 months.
Up to 6 months. So it's not like a, yearly limit. You get 6 months total.
It's per entry.
Gotcha. So you could theoretically make multiple trips within a year.
You can, and there's no official yearly limit on how many entries you can have, but
Okay, here come the nachos.
yeah, the nachos are about to get spicy.
All right, I'm ready.
When you start getting into frequent visits or prolonged stays, that's when you might raise a few eyebrows.
So it's not just about the letter of the law. It's about the spirit of the visa as well.
Yeah, you want to be able to show that you're a genuine visitor, not intending immigrant.
So how do you do that?
That's where strong ties to your home country come in.
That makes sense.
You need to have a life to come back to.
Yeah. You need a really good reason to be like, I'm just visiting.
Exactly.
So how do we convince those border officials that we're just popping in for a visit?
It's all about the evidence.
Okay.
You wouldn't pack a toothbrush for a month-long trip.
No way, unless you're an ultra minimalist.
Right.
I've been there.
You got to pack your visa story with the same care.
I like that. So what are we packing? What's in our temporary intent suitcase?
Your job is a big one.
Okay.
If you've got a stable job back home, bring an employment letter with you, something that outlines your role. Your salary confirms that your job's waiting when you get back.
Shows them you're coming back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Property ownership is another good one. A deed, lease agreement, anything that really ties you back.
Shows you've got a home base.
Right.
Yeah.
Family obligations are huge.
Yeah, kids and school-aging parents.
It shows you've got responsibilities elsewhere.
That's a good point.
And a well-crafted itinerary helps.
How so?
Having a clear plan shows you're there for a reason. Confirmed accommodation details, travel arrangements, you've got a schedule.
You're not just wandering around aimlessly.
Exactly. You're there to maximize your time and then head back.
Okay, so what about back-to-back trips? Can you bounce between countries like a ping pong ball?
That's where things get a little trickier.
It's all about the timing. So is there like a magic number of trips? Or a certain amount of time you need to stay away?
If only it were that easy.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all formula here.
Okay, so how do we find the right rhythm?
It's about common sense, really.
Okay.
Put yourself in the shoes of an immigration officer. Would you be convinced by someone who's coming and going every other week with no real explanation?
Probably not.
Exactly. Versus someone who has longer gaps between visits with a clear purpose each time.
That makes sense. It's about painting a realistic picture of a life mainly lived outside the U.S.
Exactly. And speaking of keeping track of your comings and goings, let's not forget about the I-94 form.
Oh, right, that little digital travel buddy.
Exactly. Think of it as your digital stamp for when you enter and exit the U.S. Always a good idea to check it after each entry. Just make sure all the details are correct.
Those typos can really mess things up.
They can.
So we've covered a lot of ground here on how to stay in the visa sweet spot. But let's talk about the what if for a second. What happens if someone accidentally overstays their visa?
Well, that's when things can get a little sticky.
Yeah.
You really want to avoid overstaying your visa. Even accidentally, it can have serious consequences like future travel bans.
Definitely not the kind of souvenir you want.
Not at all.
So what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners today?
Respect the visa, respect the rules, and when in doubt, ask for help.
So true. There are resources out there to guide you through the process and make sure your U.S. adventures are smooth sailing. Awesome. Well, there you have it, everyone. The B1, B2 visa's 6-month rule broken down. We hope this deep dive has left you feeling more confident and prepared for your future trips.
Absolutely. Safe travels, everyone.
And remember, folks, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to navigating the world of visas. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll see you in our next deep dive.
See you then.